Hello from Quote.com. We are here to answer all your insurance needs, whether it's Medicare insurance, auto insurance, life insurance, health insurance, home insurance, and so much more. So please check out our website and use our free quote comparison tool. Today's topic is buying a car. Should you buy through a dealership, or is it better to buy private party? So what I mean by private party would be somebody on Facebook Marketplace, somebody down the road who has a sign in their car window saying for sale. Okay, that's our private party option. The other option is obviously a dealership, and you're familiar with all the commercials online and on TV for dealerships. So what is the best route to go? Well, I'd first like to take you to autotrader.com, and of course autotrader.com is going to come down as somewhat salesy because they also happen to sell vehicles on their website. So they bring up great talking points though. They point out financing a used car purchase from a private seller takes more time than buying from a dealer. You have to wait until what you want shows up. So, and it's a lot of legwork on your behalf over a time period because you can't say what's going to be for sale when. A dealership crowdsources, brings all those options to one place. Typically, buyers pay less for a car from private seller than a dealer. So think of how a dealership works. They will buy a car from somebody who's buying a car at their lot. They'll offer a buy-in or trade-in amount, and then they turn that car around and resell it, but at a markup. They need to make a profit. So if you were to buy it from the person on the street without the dealership, without that middleman, without that overhead cost, it's clearly going to be cheaper. Now, exchanging funds for the title in a private seller deal requires more precautions than with a dealer. Obviously, they're going to point out all the negatives of private party sales because it's true. You have to rely on the honesty of the person, and you have to have, a lot of times you have to have the cash. It has to be all up front. There are some financing options, but we'll talk about that later. And then they point out a very wise bullet point: never buy a used car from a private seller or a dealer without seeing the vehicle history report. So let's start by looking at, this is Edmund's car buying guide, okay? And if you scroll down to how to buy a car with a pre-approved loan, a pre-approved auto loan starts you out on the right foot. You get an idea of how much you can afford, and you'll have an interest rate that you can then compare to the dealership's financing. So first of all, how are you going to pay for this car? If you have the cash up front, you can go private party without feeling the stress of having to figure out your finances ahead of time. If you cannot pay cash up front, you will need to head to that dealership if you go the dealership route with an already good sense of where you stand financially and what your options are, because the dealership is going to offer you financing options. If you do a little legwork for yourself and go to the bank and compare what you can get yourself, you'll have some bargaining options when you go to that dealership. Well, whenever you go private party or dealership, whatever car you get, you will have to insure, and that is where Quote.com steps in. And when you're doing your homework for figuring out your financing, do your homework for your insurance as well, okay? Go to Quote.com, go to the auto insurance tab, and click compare rates. The first step is zip code. Enter that zip code because insurance rates will vary by location. And so already we're trying to narrow. This whole process is trying to narrow a better quote for you, a more accurate quote for you. So the more accurate you are with this whole entire process, the better it will be in the long run, because you'll get an accurate rate sent to you from multiple providers. That's the beauty of this. It's free and it's easy to use, and it's multiple providers at once. It does the homework for you. Now, Nationwide has a article about how to buy from a private seller. So clearly Auto Trader thinks that you probably shouldn't do private party sales when it comes to car. But Nationwide actually offers some helpful thoughts on if you do decide to go with private seller. So there are benefits, and mostly that's financial. The biggest benefit of private vehicle sales is that financial piece. It is considerably cheaper a lot of times than going to the dealership. Drawbacks is it's riskier. So how do we do this safely if you choose to go private seller? You have to do your research, okay? So you need to know your price points and your financing options before you actually show up to this meeting point, okay? Contact the seller, okay? Ask preliminary questions concerning accident repair history, okay? So ask the seller themselves, because that gives you a chance to judge how honest and upfront they're going to be, because guess what else you're going to do? You're going to file a Carfax report. You need a background report on that car from a third party if you're dealing with a private seller. Even if you know that private seller vaguely, even if you kind of feel like you have a good idea of who they are as a person, check their car's history. They might not even know. If they bought it from a private party, they might not even know their own car's history. So run the Carfax. Ask the person, give them a chance to be upfront, but run the Carfax as well, okay? Examine the vehicle. This is an opportunity for you to bring a mechanic along with you, or meet up with the private seller at your mechanic's place so that you can get a professional opinion before you put the cash down. And now they give you a list of things that you can look for yourself if you're going to go on your own, okay? But will you know what is good, what looks good and what looks not? That's dependent on your comfort level with what you know about cars, okay? And then always test drive it. You need to make sure that when you're driving it, there's not some obvious things going on, especially with things like sounds, like transmission, brakes, those kind of audible problems that should be a red flag or a negotiating point for price, if that's what it can come down to. And then comes the payment. You need to make sure the car title gets transferred and all the right portions are signed. Without the signature in the proper portions of the car title, and this is more for the seller's protection, because as soon as you take that car, you assume responsibility. So if you don't get that all figured out, if you don't get it signed properly, and then you get in an accident immediately from leaving that interaction, and the car title was not signed, then that owner is still the owner of the vehicle and is still on the bill, is still on the insurance side of things, liable. So go to quote.com. Whether or not you're buying a new car or you already have a car that you are wondering, you know what, maybe I'm not getting the best rate. Right now is a great time to shop for car insurance because rates are increasing nationwide. And we have another video about that. And so if you're wondering why are rates increasing, that's a whole different topic. But go to quote.com, click on the auto insurance tab, go to compare rates, enter your zip code. It'll take you through a series of questions. It'll take you through what make and model and year your vehicle is, whether or not you as a driver have special things that could give you discounts like military service, safe driving record, good student. They're going to ask you these specifics so that multiple providers can accurately assess you and give you the best rate. So are car loans from a credit union a good option? So going back to the whole financing, whether or not you go dealership, private seller, financing that car if you can't pay cash, you may already know this, but credit unions get a good reputation for offering great options for financing a car. So here we go. Low interest rates. The most popular reason to get your car loan from a credit union is that you can pay a lower interest rate. You can easily see the advantage of getting a car loan from a credit union when you consider the interest rates. So think about that interest rate. That is going to be a percentage that you see for the entire life of the loan. So cutting back those percentages, even just marginally from the beginning, is going to build up over time. And by the time you pay off that loan, you're going to be thankful for that lower interest rate. If you have a history with a credit union, they have more flexibility and more trust with you and more ability to negotiate terms on that loan. So that's another advantage. They're looking at you as an individual because they tend to be more local and they put a lot of stock into actually knowing their client base. And so already being a member of the credit union for years before you actually broach this financing a car topic can be an advantage. 7 top reasons to buy a used car through a dealership. Chase Bank gives an article, compiled an article about this. Chase Bank obviously offers loans, so they're going to advise in a way that is going to be safest for the loan. So they are going to recommend dealership because that is the more reliable. As far as reputation goes, so you'll see they point out greater variety, all one-stop shop idea, more payment options. Okay, cars are likely to be more reliable only because dealerships tend to depend a lot on their reputations. So they're going to put that car through more rigorous testing by mechanics before they offer it up for sale. They can provide transparency, buyer protection, and you have the possibility to trade in your old car. Now, they're not going to offer market value for that trade-in because they need to turn around and make a profit. But once again, ease of use for the whole process, it could be way easier going through a dealership to take a lot of the legwork out of the whole process for you. So Chase says it's better to buy from a dealership. It comes down to, do you know who you're buying the car? If you're going to go private party, do you know the person? Or is it such a good deal that even if you have to put a little bit of money into repairs in the future that were undisclosed, although run that Carfax and you will hopefully avoid any major issues there. In fact, so when you go to Carfax, you will put in the VIN. Now, it costs money to run a Carfax report, okay? It's not, they just don't offer this out of the goodwill of their own heart. You do have to pay for it, but it is worth every penny in the long run if you can avoid a disastrous vehicle purchase. When you look at that Carfax report, it will tell you if that car has been in a flood. And if that car has been in a flood, or if that car has been in a significant front end collision situation where you need to be making sure that everything was put back right and refurbished correctly, that could save you tons of headaches in the future. If you see that vehicle was used in an oil field and had significant wear and tear, most likely by people that don't care about maintaining, those are some examples of private sellers that you would want to know the Carfax on. Working with a dealership, most of the time they will offer that comprehensive car report with the sale. So whichever you choose, please go to quote.com. Use our simple, free auto insurance comparison tool. Browse our site. When you go to more options, you'll see we offer comparison for pet insurance, rental insurance, motorcycle business. Lots to explore here on our website. And make sure, whichever way you buy your new vehicle, you get your education, you come prepared to the table so that you save yourself headaches in the future. Check out our other videos for other tips and tricks of the insurance world, and give us a like. Share this if you think this would be helpful. If you know anybody who's in the car market who needs to buy a new vehicle or a used vehicle specifically, make sure to share this video and like this video, and comment below with any of your personal experience in the topic. We love to hear your stories, and we love to get back to you on them.